Armenia for me has been a long-term, committed relationship. I met Armenia for the first time in July of 1994. The Karabakh War had just ended. The streets of Yerevan were dark, and the blockade was wreaking havoc on people's daily lives. But what I remember was how beautiful Ambert Fortress was the first time I saw it. And I also remember that I turned 18 that year, and I spent my birthday in Burakan, the mountains of Burakan. And at my birthday party, there were 6 soldiers who had just come back from Karabakh, and they threw me up in the air 18 times as a celebration. I had a serious crush on this Armenia. Who is this man, this Armenia? I want to get to know him better. But my summer crush, unfortunately, lasted only 3 weeks that year, and I returned to my life here in Los Angeles. And I went to college at UCLA, and then I went to Berkeley for law school, and Armenia remained at that time an 18-year-old crush. After law school and the bar exam, I took my bar trip, again back to Armenia, and this time I spent 2 months there. I taught at the American University. So this was our dating phase, me and Armenia. I spent time trying to figure him out. What are his intentions? Is he as serious about me as I am about him? I've heard all these great things about him, this Armenia, but there are some things that are kind of unfamiliar, a little foreign. Can I really trust him with my heart? And I left 2 months later because I had to start my first job as a lawyer. And I went to DC and I started my first job as a lawyer. And as I sat at my computer in my 20 by 20 foot windowless office, writing legal briefs, reading cases, and hunched over a computer 10 hours a day, I quickly realized that I needed to go back. And a year and a half later I did, and this time with a one-way ticket. I moved to Armenia on a Fulbright scholarship in 2002, and I ended up living there for 2.5 years. Since then, I've gone back many times on different social justice projects, and I'm actually returning on May 29th with an open-ended one-way ticket again. But it really wasn't until I bought that one-way ticket in 2002 that my real relationship with Armenia, the mature part of our relationship, really began. We had a great honeymoon phase, me and Armenia. He could do no wrong in the beginning. The mountains were more beautiful every day. The peaches were sweeter every day. The cab drivers were more hilarious. And I remember my first year, my dad actually wrote to me and said, you know, I'm going to be in Paris for a week. Why don't you come from Yerevan? Why don't you meet me in Paris? And so I said, okay, Dad, I'll come meet you in Paris and we'll have a weekend together. And I ended up coming back early. And one of my friends in Yerevan said, why did you come back early? And I said with great bravado, I would much rather walk past the piles of garbage here in Yerevan than sit in those pretentious Parisian cafes. Even the garbage smelled great in that first year. But of course, like any relationship, when the honeymoon stage slowly comes to an end, I started to see the real Armenia in all his shades of gray, sometimes beautiful and triumphant, and sometimes ugly and oppressive. But for everything that he was always real. And I ended up finding my own ways to engage the country. For me, it was with my camera as well as with a progressive legal degree. That's how I ended up engaging the country. And the thing is that for most of you today, there are so many more tools to find your connection and your relationship with Armenia. The thing that's most different, I think, today in 2012 than in 2002 when I moved there, except for the fact that you have water now, electricity, and heat and all that, and somebody doesn't have to bring you peanut butter every month because everything you would want is actually in the stores. The thing that's different now is that you can actually join a generation of like-minded, progressive locals who are demanding a better life for themselves now in Armenia. And today, through social media, you can directly connect with like-minded people there. You can get involved in the fight for rule of law. You can get involved in the preservation of the environment and green spaces. You can work against abuse. of abuse and hazing in the army. You can get involved in domestic violence. You can get involved with gay rights, the right to civilized housing, against poverty, against corruption, and of course for free and fair elections. And the list goes on. There are so many different issues that you can roll your sleeves and get involved in. And although the group there that is concerned about these things is small, they're a very powerful group. And they believe very strongly in what Margaret Mead once said, that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. So just a few concluding thoughts. My advice would be, don't go to Armenia if you think that you're going to fix something that's broken. And don't go if you think you're going to teach people something. And most of all, don't go because somebody along the way told you that it's your responsibility. Go because you want to be present, you want to participate, and you want to expand yourself as a human being. And once you've expanded, reach out to other diasporans and enlist them to expand as well. I want to end by quoting a Birthright volunteer who's actually in Armenia right now. This is not somebody that I know, although I hope to meet him when I go. But I just saw his blog this past week, and he wrote something that really touched my heart and made me feel that these were really wise words to live by when you make the decision to go to Armenia. His name is Patrick Bayramian. He's from Los Angeles, and he says, "I came here with the unfortunate mindset to find something broken, but because I believed I was someone who could mend it. Now that I'm here, it's time for me to unlearn what I've heard and listen to the country's vibe as it beats to the growing rhythm of social evolution. And my head starts to bounce to its tune." Thanks for listening.